Hi, welcome to Heads vs. Feds, where the ultimate odd couple give their take on the drug war news stories of the day. My name is Stephen Hager. I'm former editor of High Times Magazine.
And I'm Bob Stutman, former agent in charge of DEA New York.
So what do you got for us today, Bob?
Well, this is an important week, I think, Steve. We have been debating for 10 years, and you never cease to get a chuckle when you say marijuana users always drive slower and more carefully after smoking grass. So it's ludicrous to think that they get in accidents after smoking grass. As you know, one of my major reasons for not legalizing marijuana is more users. More users equal more car accidents, and that always got Snickers led and cheered on by you. Well, this week, as a matter of fact, 2 days ago, the Epidemiological Review, one of the premier scientific journals in the world, finished a study of 9 sub-studies of the question of, does marijuana use contribute to motor vehicle accidents? And 8 of the 9 studies said approximately driving after smoking marijuana within 3 to 4 hours doubles the chance, roughly doubles the chance of a person being involved in a serious accident, many with death resulting. In the studies they looked at where death resulted in accidents, 28% of the people were positive for non-alcohol drugs, and 90% of that 28% was cannabis. So the conclusion of the study was, without doubt, if you drive a car shortly after smoking marijuana, generally within 3 to 4 hours, your statistical chance is doubled of getting in a car crash, very often causing death.
You know, I haven't looked at this study in any detail. I did notice that Thailand is the one exception where they couldn't find a link between marijuana use and accidents.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that's because the use of marijuana is significantly lower in Thailand than it is in the developed countries. It seems strange to me, but marijuana is the most used illicit drug, and it's the easiest to detect. So it would make sense that there's a lot of people that are testing positive because there's just a lot of people that are using marijuana. And as somebody who, like you, drove a motorcycle almost my entire life, I have to, admit there are times when I was young, a long time ago, when I drove after drinking and when I drove after using marijuana. And there's a tremendous difference between those two things. Now, I'd be interested in looking at the statistics regarding alcohol. I guess alcohol wasn't even looked at in this study as a cofactor?
No, the alcohol was ruled out. These were non-alcohol positive drug tests. So in other words, they looked at all the accidents, they culled out the ones that were tested positive for alcohol, and then they did the studies on the ones who tested negative for alcohol. This is cannabis alone. You can't worm your way out of this one, Steve.
Most cannabis users are also alcohol users. So.
Oh, I'm going to have to remember that next time we speak when you tell me cannabis will be in place of alcohol. But anyway.
I'm just giving the reality is that, you're a lot more dangerous when you're on alcohol, in my opinion, than you are when you're on cannabis.
I think you're severely dangerous on both. I am in no way excusing what alcohol does on our highways. Nobody with a brain can. My argument simply, Steve, is that the science has now proven, really beyond a doubt, and you can study this one all you want, that people who smoke grass and then drive a car are contributing to accidents and potentially deaths. Steve, I'll look you in the eye and ask you, would you want your son to drive a car after smoking a joint?
No responsible cannabis user wants to see people driving around, stoned. That's not something anybody's trying to encourage. I think it's unfortunate that there's a lot of people that do that kind of reckless behavior, and they're kind of making it bad for the rest of us. But I think the dangers of marijuana and accidents are exaggerated, in my opinion. And as long as we're on the subject, how many times are they going to flip-flop with this Obama business? He gets elected, he says he doesn't want to get involved with the states' rights issue of marijuana, medical marijuana. He says he's going to leave medical marijuana alone if the states want it. And now they've done a complete reversal of that again, and they started targeting the major dispensaries of California.
First, Steve, he never said either one of the things he said. He said his priority is not marijuana dispensaries. His certainly does not intend to arrest users. The so-called flip-flop you talked about was in the state of California. DEA is now going after the major multi-million-dollar dispensaries. Now, Stephen, I respect your intelligence, I respect your opinion, and you know that. You cannot look anybody in the eye and tell me that the state of California is truly doing medical marijuana for most users. You and I both know it has devolved in California from what started as medical marijuana to simply a way of doing recreational marijuana. And you also know there are dispensaries doing multi-million dollars worth and making huge profit. Many of these dispensaries, it appears, are run or owned by Mexican cartels. But that's beside the point. At this point, they're selling millions of dollars worth of grass. It is no longer medical marijuana in California, and you know that, Steve. I am not so much against medical marijuana, even cannabis, if a state does it like New Jersey, where they truly do it for sick people, where others and medicines don't work, they see a real doctor, and it's controlled. What has happened in California is a free-for-all. Everybody in California knows it. Probably the reason why the recreational marijuana use did not pass, and the feds have finally said enough. And anybody that's surprised at this is a buffoon.
Well, you know, first of all, the first person they went after was the biggest dispensary in California, Harborside.
Gee, what a shock.
Run by Steve D'Angelo, who has absolutely no connection to the Mexican cartels. And what they're doing is they're not allowing him to write off the expense of purchasing cannabis in order to provide it to patients. So they've suddenly announced that he owes them tens of millions of dollars in taxes over the last few years. So, and you know, I guess they'll go after the big guys first, but are you saying they're going to leave the mom and pops alone? Or are they just working their way down the chain?
I can only tell you what the U.S. Attorney said. They are going after the major trafficker or the major right. multi-million-dollar dispensaries.
All right. Well, let's deal with the loosey-goosey aspect of California versus other states. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's loosey-goosey. The same way pharmaceutical drugs is loosey-goosey in a lot of states. The same way you can get any pharmaceutical you want out of a pill mill. The same way. So I mean, for medicine to be abused is not just an issue for medical marijuana. This is an issue for all medicines.
You are completely right. And Florida is as terrible on pharmaceutical drugs as California is on medical marijuana. I condemn them both for the way they're handling it. But we do not design programs based on the worst possible model.
Well, yeah, but let me give you this question. What's better or what's worse? Some guy gets medical marijuana who probably didn't need it? Or some guy who really needed medical marijuana desperately to stay alive was able to get it?
There are many states where that person who desperately needs it can get it. There are many states. Of the 16, many of them, that person will get it. You know it, and I know it. Yeah. All I'm saying is California has gone beyond the pale. They have become a circus, as they do in many other ways, on the medical marijuana issue, and the feds have said enough.
Well, I think New Jersey is too restrictive. I think any combat veteran who's not allowed marijuana for post-traumatic stress disorder is it's just wrong, just plain wrong. So,
and most doctors disagree with you on that, but
there's a few other things like that too, where it's kind of borderline right now as to whether states are going to accept or reject certain kinds of conditions and symptoms. And I think, maybe California is a little too open, but in my opinion, New Jersey is too closed.
And you may be right, and I may be right. All I'm saying, Steve, if we're going to call it medical marijuana, let us put true medical guidelines on it. Let's not have it be a circus as it is in California.
All right, that's Heads versus Feds for this week. Stay tuned next week when we take on another challenging news topic, and check out our new YouTube page, youtube.com/Heads versus Feds.
Later.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for coming out this evening. I'm so glad that you're here. Tonight is going to be an interesting and lively debate for you, and I want to tell you a little bit about the format for tonight.
Anybody learn anything?
Yeah.
What'd you learn?
People in the DA really actually do go about wanting weed, and they're not all just like angry drug stomp like that want to kill every kid that smokes a joint. And also that people that are really high up in the marijuana industry, not just selling it, but also being an editor of a magazine, they use it responsibly too, and actually they're knowledgeable about the subject.
You think anybody's going to be a little more responsible about marijuana after seeing this show?
Oh, I am. We're at the University of South Carolina. This is the SSDP emailing list to start a chapter here at the school. 17 on this and 10 or 11 on this one.
All right, you ready to change some laws?
Yes, sir.